Hi. So, the philosophy of languages gonna explore how word gonna shape our understanding of the world, right? Uh, Influence thought and gonna construct social reality. Personally, I can say I know five languages, which is German, English, Tamil, Malayalam, and Hindi, right? Uh, so I can call I'm a bilingual person. So the idea that world gonna create, reality is rooted in various philosophical and linguistic and psychological perspective. And so the introduction of language is a branch of philosophy like that tell the nature, meaning, and function of a language, right? So basically, it address a fundamental question like what's the relation between language and reality? So do words merely describe the world or do they shape it? And how does this meaning, right, arise in a language? So uh, language is not a merely tool of communication. It's structure our thought, influence our perception, and this is my standpoint. But there are a lot of theory, like on the relation between language and reality. There is three primary perspective on the relation between language and reality. One is language gonna describe reality, which is called realism, right? And the second is language gonna shape reality. This is linguistic relativism and constructivism, right? And third is language create reality, like language idealism and performative speech, right? And I'm gonna tell an important thing, which is many philosophers thought about language. Like Plato believed in a world of ideal form, where word and concept refer to real, like eternal truth, right? And Aristotle developed a theory of categories, like where word classify and describe the world systematically, right? And Boswell and Ludwig Wittgenstein, right, in his early work, they say something language should be logically uh, mirror reality. Uh, in this view, reality exists independently of language, and the word merely provide labels for pre-existing truth, right? And the second, the next thing I personally believe is language shape our reality. Uh, there is a big hypothesis called Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. It's proposed by Edward Sapir and Benjamin Lee Whorf. This theory tells that structure of a language affected speakers' cognition. I can say the best example that there's a language called Hopi, which lack tense distinction. It supposedly influences speaker perception over time, different from English speakers do. And another gonna be this language called Eskimo. They have a multiple word for snow. Uh, different when I don't remember it, but it can lead to finer distinction of a perception, right? And according to constructivism, it tells that reality is socially constructed through language and discourse, right? I can tell many examples like this concept like race, gender, money. These are human construct. They give many meaning through language. When it develop, it has a deep meaning into that, right? So the Ludwig Wittgenstein later work like this, I think, philosophical investigation of it. They he introduced something, an idea that meaning is use independent, telling the word gain meaning through social and culture context rather than industry or reality or reference to reality, right? And and language as the creator of a reality. So this extreme position tell that languages not only influence reality but actually gonna construct it. So uh, there is linguistic idealism by Immanuel Kant. It tells us knowledge of a reality is mediated by language and concept, right? Uh, Reality as we perceive, it's shaped by the category and structure of human thought, right? Uh, this is speech act theory. It tells that word doesn't just describe reality, they perform action. I can give an example. For example, uh, let's think that when a judge say, uh, I sentence you to 10 years in prison, right? The word themselves bring about a real consequence. So, thing like saying I do in a wedding, like take a wedding ceremony, you're gonna create a legal and social change in that. And in postmodernism, it tells that discourse, like language and use, gonna construct more reality, shaping power relation and social norm and identity. The concept of manners is a better example. Uh, it was historically shaped by language, right? According to these views, which we discussed recently, language does not just describe the world, it actively create and structure our reality behind it, right? And uh, so if you look at modern cognitive science, it supports the idea that language shape thought and perception. I can give an example. When I learn a new language, which is German, it took me 1 year, but I see a different cognitive perception in my self model, and um, and I perceived that reality when I was in after 2 years. So the cognitive framing is the way information is framed in language influence decision making, right? For example, pro life versus pro choice in abortion. A debate influence perception through word choice, right? Next gonna be the color perception study. Let's think people who speak language with um, distinct word for shades of blue perceive them more differently than those who do not. Uh, And this bilingualism, like which I recently tell you about, it shows that bilingual speaker can shift uh, perspective based on the language they are using, right? Now we can tell the implication of words creating reality. So if a language shape or create reality, it has a profound implication in many areas. Let's talk about politics, right? Uh, the political rhetoric shape, right? I mean, it's gonna shape public perception and influence our election a lot. Let's think about freedom fighter and terrorist, right? It can frame the same group differently, right? Uh, and just think about social identity and norm. So gender language gonna influence perception of role. Uh, I can say best example. This think about the shift from fireman to firefighter. Gonna promote gender inclusively, right? Uh, and inclusivity is the best thing. And if we talk about law and justice, the gender language influence perception a lot because, I mean, as I recently, uh, discuss the legal language define right, responsibility, and identity a lot. So just think about marriage as a legal term determines social and legal recognition of it. So yeah, and in science and knowledge, scientific theory shape how we conceptualize the world. Think about global warming and climate change, right? It influences public concern a lot. And next thing I feel is counter argument and limitation of it. Uh, just take uh, objective reality that exists independently of a language. I think just take physical world like gravity, atom. They exist whether we have a word for them or not, right? It's gonna be exist forever. And think about universal concept in a language. Some meanings are universal across language, telling that language does not fully determine thought, right? So a language evolved based on experience, right? Like think about words. Words change over time to reflect, I think, new reality. But I think reality influence language rather than the reverse, and it evolve a lot based on experience. So, so just think about conclusion of this concept. So, do words create reality? So the answer depends on how we define reality, right? So if a reality means the physical world, then the word do not create it but merely describe it. So if reality mean human experience, perception, and social construct, then word gonna play a better role in shaping and even creating reality. So language, according to me, is not a passive reflection of the world, but I think it's an active force that structure our thought and interaction. So if an object reality may exist independently, right? Our understanding of it mediate and shaped by language, I think. So, so I think words may not create all kind of reality, but they undeniably construct much of the reality we live in, I think.